Welcome to Senior Living Marketing Perspectives. I'm Debbie Howard, co-founder of Senior Living Smart, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Bailey Beeken. She is the president of Senior Care Events and the founder of Smash. Welcome, Bailey.
Hey, Debbie, so good to see you. As always, I'm honored to be asked. Thank you so much for letting me be on your wonderful podcast.
Yeah, so glad to have you. And I think that we kind of got connected very early in kind of the startup of both of our companies, as I recall, and we've kind of grown together over the last, 7 or 8 years?
Yes, we sure have. I think we were literally neck and neck when we first got started and commiserated accordingly over the years.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah, startups not for sissies, right? And
That is correct.
that's right.
But
So
the reward of finally giving customers what they need and what they want is, it's like nothing else. That's what I say.
yeah, exactly. No, I totally agree. And for listeners out there who may not be familiar with Smash, can you just kind of give us a quick overview?
Sure. It's actually the long title is the Senior Care Marketing and Sales Summit. It's the only and largest event for those who are in the C-suite of sales and marketing in large provider and operator senior care organizations, both on the senior housing side as well as on the senior care, skilled nursing, home health side as well. Last year we had close to 500 people at the event in a very different way than we would be allowed to this year. And it was wonderful out in Las Vegas at the Green Valley Ranch. Again, we developed it back in 2014, right around the time you started. I had been in senior care for a couple of years working for a conference company, which is the what my skill set has been for many, many years in different industries, and found myself in senior care and fell in love with it and was doing CEO events. And as part of their programming, I always slipped in a little bit of sales and marketing because it's near and dear to my heart as chief cook and bottle washer in that area. And the rooms were always packed. Everybody wanted to know, but I would see the CEOs leaving, no offense to them, and I knew it wasn't getting translated back to their offices. So I made a decision in 2014 then to go out on my own and produce a conference just for that C-suite level sales and marketing executive, primarily because although it seems like a long time. It was only yesterday, 2014, when marketing automation was getting started and digital advertising was starting to be a thing. Social media was, the king, and no one knew what content was. And so I think we talk about growing up together. When we started Smash, many of our operators and providers said, "Oh my God, we're so behind the curve." And I kept saying, actually, you're not that behind the curve. Nobody knows anything. That's what we know. We also made a decision at that time, having gone to many industry events, which are wonderful, Leading Age and Argentum and ACA, NAC, all of them, but they are operationally and clinically focused for the main part. So there's not a lot on sales and marketing, and we felt with all of the changes and the disruption and different consumers coming into the market, different stakeholders, so to speak, the adult child as well as the senior, that our Smash community really needed their own conference. And we started the first year with about 105 people. I'm sure you were there. I remember.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was small, but people loved it. And so we made a commitment to have 80% of our speakers at least be from outside the industry. And the reason we did that is because of that idea of a feedback loop. We know that people wanted to know what other people were doing outside of the industry to see where they could compare and contrast, but also to hear topic experts really be able to drill down specifically on those things that would have an impact on their organization. So that's where we are, the Senior Care Marketing and Sales Summit, otherwise known as SMASH, to those many of you out there who have been and are believers. And I just also want to take this moment to say thank you to everyone who's listening. You are the heroes, your staff, all of them, everyone who works in every one of your organizations have been heroic during this time. And no matter what the newspapers say, which has not been always favorable to us and to our industry. I can tell you from, and Debbie, I know you know this as well from your clients, we've got heroes everywhere, and so proud to be a part of this industry. So I just wanted to say that and thank you.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. That's absolutely true. And we both love this industry, and that's why we both started our companies, was to, kind of contribute our experiences that help maybe share thought leadership and kind of elevate, those thoughts into actions. And, the SMASH conference is just, my favorite conference of the year. So I thank you for, taking the risk and doing all the hard work to start a conference from scratch, which, you could have done easier things, Bailey. So,
well, I have a great team. Couldn't have done it without them either. So
yeah, it is a great team. But, the people who attend SMASH, are really out there looking for, the next kind of level of learning, and then how to apply some of the best practices from outside the industry. Because let's face it, I mean, healthcare, we are not always the first adopters, especially of things that are new or things that are more technology facing. I remember it wasn't that long ago, I was VP of Sales and Marketing at 5-Star, and I was reviewing marketing budgets, and it was a combination of church bulletins and yellow pages. So
right, and it wasn't that long ago. I know, that's when people came in with 2014. And again, we think it's a long time. It's only been 6 years, so it's amazing. And every year it becomes broader, wider. To your point, a lot more thought leadership and strategy has to go into how to implement this, not just by themselves, but with their agencies. There's I think, a much closer alignment, because I know for myself and my marketing, I can't do it alone. I would need a much bigger marketing department to pull I'm not American Express. Most companies are not, and even they use agencies. So I think, being able to understand even what all of this does so they can speak strategically with their agencies has been very, very critical as well, from what we've heard at SMASH and a lot of the solution partners. How does it really move the needle for them?
Right. So how has SMASH evolved over the last 6 years? Like, what are some of the trends that you've seen?
I think in the first year, what we saw was a lot about social media. That was really the most robust at that time, place and space where customers were being found, and where organizations could have an imprint, as well as websites. That was really the beginning of the changeover from where people were to where people are. And there's still a lot of that, if I may say, should be done if you're not doing it, because that is where leads are generated. So, and I think it moved on from there once people understood the social media component. And again, as technology was evolving, they began to understand the content component. That was very big for a couple of years. And still, of course, we always have information about content development and how it can drive a lead through a funnel to a specific place, so that a marketing person can pick it up and understand what that lead and who that lead is. So that was very, very, we went very deep into that for the first couple of years, as well as digital advertising began to become, you had to be in it to win it. There was just no question. And then I would say by last year, I'm giving very broad strokes, that the management of that data, I go back to working with an agency. And I don't want to say if you don't understand, now you had church bulletins, as many people had, not just you had church bulletins and a directory. First it was the paid aggregators. The amount of data that marketing professionals and sales management professionals have to work with today is enormous. It's like a fire hose. And so really by last year, people were like, okay, we're there. We're doing digital advertising. We fixed our website. We kind of know where our conversion points are. We're getting content. But what does it all mean? And how do we adjust our budgets, our strategies based on global brand, local brand? So, and there's a whole new world going into post-pandemic, post-COVID, even though we're not post anything quite yet, but that's going to present an enormous amount of challenges.
Yeah, so let's jump into that. Let's kind of jump into, and just for the listeners to know, we're recording about the third week in May of 2020. So at this point, there's still many restrictions. It's really changed our entire sales process, the way we engage with prospects. And I'm sure, Bailey, that, and I know you, when you finish the Smash conference, you rest for about a week and then you immediately start planning the next year's conference.
We do.
so,
We
so
do.
that was probably back last October. You're starting to plan for the following fall, and you're looking at speakers and themes, and you're talking to your advisory board about the hot topics and what's kind of top of mind. I'll bet you didn't anticipate this in your planning.
Funnily enough, we did not. So we have an unbelievably active and smart and dedicated advisory board. We have had since the beginning. They are instrumental in planning, and we do, maybe it's not the first week, but certainly between October and December, well, right after the show, we do a large survey. We get over a 40% participation in that survey. A lot, some of it we want to know how we did, but a lot of it is, what do you want? That's really our main goal with that survey. And we now have navigators and Sherpas. So we have a lot of very dedicated people within the Smash community who tell us the good, the bad, and the ugly, but especially what it is that's going to matter to them in the coming year. So we had an in-person, as we do every year, an in-person board meeting in early January. We had the perfect program.
Right.
It was perfect. And Regina and I left there and we started plowing into the topics, the speakers, and it's not always easy to get speakers from outside the industry, but we do a lot of begging and finding people who are familiar with our industry from the outside in. They've had a parent or whatever who are happy to come talk to us about their expertise. But we were it was the perfect program. And but just about January 31st, or maybe it was February 15th, we recognized that we needed to revamp the whole conference program. So, and as did our board, as did our Sherpas and navigators. So we went back out to the community and said, what do you need? What do you think you'll need now? And this was still fairly early. So we've been iterating really since that time. We just posted our program on our website, www.seniorcaremarketingsummit.com, which I'll repeat obviously at the end, but we have about 90% of our program done. Most of it will be posted, I would say, by early June. Typically, we have everything done by April, but this year we've just wanted to keep fluid because we've needed to, as I'm sure all of those everyone listening has felt, they've needed to be agile and pivot or pause. We've heard a lot about pausing, and as difficult as this time has been, a number of our again, in the Smash community that we've been speaking with have said it's actually been a bit of a great time to really start to rethink and redesign their strategy, not just because of what has happened with COVID, but because they haven't had a minute to breathe in 8 years or 10 years. And so it's they're very excited about doing that. So we have, and we can talk more specifics, but we have a mix of how should people be looking at re-engaging the customer. We want to call it the pandemic persona. And also some of our very topical and just deep dives into, again, those tactical areas that no matter what, they're still going to need that skill set, those ideas to be able to work, again, in tandem with their own marketing and sales stakeholders, agencies, other solution partners that they use to engage customers. So it's changed. We completely went 360. So
So what are you hearing in terms of the top of mind topics? What do people want to learn about at this year's Smash?
I think people are there are a number of things that are going to be drivers, I'd like to say. And so what they'll be hearing about, we've got over 32 sessions already. I'd love to talk about them all, but I can tell you that some of the things that have been driving our decisions in topic areas has been, I think people have been talking about, they know that it's not going to be enough to just capture revenue. That's going to be important, and it's going to have to happen quickly coming into 2021. It's not going to be what it was, but they have to do that. But they also, we've been hearing for those, and most of the companies that come to Smash, I know you've known since 2014, are more forward leaning, perhaps
Right.
I would say, are willing to take some risks with newer things, that the first movers will have the rewards, however that looks. And
Absolutely.
so they're very
Absolutely.
excited to, it's hard to be excited through this tragedy, but they're, I would say, interested and really want to get going on that idea of being a first mover. I think experimenting is also just an overall, like, people are more willing to experiment moving forward than perhaps they have been in the past. I think a difficulty for people in the past has been trying to convince senior management to make some more investment. They've been making investments, but more investment, whether it be digital or a better website, or perhaps websites for each community location, whatever that looks like. I think
Hmm.
that our sales and marketing executives are going to be more willing to go to battle for that if again, they want to be first movers, because it was already a difficult and competitive market, and it now is layered on with, has a new set of layers. So experimenting as speed, agility, a new understanding, I think, of understanding what the customer values are going to be, navigating into 2021. I go back to the pandemic persona, and that's not just for the senior, but for the adult child. And the need for marketing and sales to, again, be even closer than they have been in the past. If they're not working in tandem, they must. There's just no way around that prescription for really trying to make sure that those leads that are generated, those customers that begin to be engaged, are not left on the table because they're not calling back or they won't take an email. There's just got to be other ways to keep people engaged and to really, I have said this to many of our speakers. They talk about lack of empathy in both marketing and sales, and I have said this is not one of those industries. There is a
Right.
high empathy level. Like, people who sell in this industry, like, they could teach somebody else about how to be an empathetic seller. But
Sure.
I think as we have talked to both consumers, both our customers as well as our speakers, is the idea that the empathy needs to be the third ear now. In therapy, this was just explained to me yesterday. In therapy, they talk about listeners having a third ear. People are
Hmm.
certainly going to want transparency about COVID, about people's organizations. They will be able to find anything you want to hide. So if 2 people have passed away because of COVID, you better put that on your website, and then talk
Hmm.
about what you've done and what you did and how you've helped the families, because anything that's hidden is going to feel like it's the last place somebody's going to want to go. So transparency and the hows and whys of that. Pricing has come up, just it always does, but it has taken on, I think, a paramount importance of, are there discounts? Should there be, people aren't going to be able to have buffets anymore. I mean, there are just so many things that are going to be impacted
Right.
by this for years to come, outside of the safety issue, that I think, again, both, the CEOs, COOs, certainly from webinars I've listened to and some of the people I know, they're very much looking, this is an opportunity for them finally to get pushed into experimenting with new product, real differentiated product. And from there, the sales and marketers are going to have to take that and remessage it. So content's going to become critical again. Not that it
Right.
hasn't been, the refresh, the recharge, the renewal, that's the way we're looking at this year's program. You can't assume anything from before. You have to start from that pause, if that's helpful. for
Yeah,
people.
no, that's very helpful. I mean, I think we have to take the time to be thoughtful, and then really evaluate all of our channels and our current messaging and our current content. And is it still relevant? Does it still resonate? Because we're going to have to pivot a lot of that information. Um, I think another thing is, and one of the things we've been working on is a project to really assess the sentiment and the viability of the database. So within everybody's database, they're going to have a group of contacts and prospects that may be more negative based on the images that they've seen and how the media has created the narrative. I always talk about we've got to go in and we've got to take ownership of our narrative going forward because
Hmm.
what we've been
Right,
handed by the
absolutely.
media
Yep.
is not going to help us. Um, but I do think that there's a group that may be more motivated in the database as well, because perhaps they had their loved ones move in with them, or they couldn't get to. I haven't seen my mom in 2.5 months because we're not allowed to, have those interactions anymore. And then there's probably a group that's neutral. They don't feel any differently today. They really haven't been impacted. But we need to have a strategy for each of those, right? So the sales team needs to know here's the group within your database that's more positive, that is more motivated, that now is going back to work and maybe needs it, and the adult daycare is closed and the senior center's closed and all of the other avenues for support may have fallen away. So that's one strategy. The people who are more negative are going to need a lot more nurturing. There's going to be trust building. We're going to have to spend a lot more time kind of in those relationships and showing that empathy and meeting them where they are. And the people who are neutral, maybe our current methods, could still be viable for them. But what are your thoughts around, kind of a great place to start is the leads that we've bought and paid for, because we're hearing that new lead generation is off anywhere between 30 and 50%. So we no longer have that constant stream. We got kind of spoiled with there's always more leads coming in. I have more leads than I can handle. We don't really have a lead generation issue. We have a lead conversion issue. That was the pre-COVID thinking. Kind of the post-COVID thinking or the transitional thinking is every lead is now more precious than ever, and I can't afford to lose them because I don't have this constant stream of incoming new lead generation. And the new leads are coming in, though, are also have higher intent. What are your thoughts around that?
I think you actually just spoke to a lot of that in that there are, like you, I've heard, obviously it's like flying, people just don't want to make a move. They've moved their parent home or their parent is in a safe spot and, however that looks. And so there will be opportunities. One of the things that we have 4 tracks this year. One is lead generation / conversion / lead management. And again,
Mm-hmm.
that goes to what we heard once we pivoted, that those 3 things, all 3 of them, including still conversion, but lead management especially was really rated very, very high in people's minds. How will the changes in, customers, what will that be looking like? They need deeper insights into buying behaviors, and it's not going to happen overnight. Like, it's going to be people like you and others that are those thought leaders, solution partners to say, hey, okay, let's throw out the old playbook. We had a lead scoring system. It wasn't really working that well to begin with. Let's go back to the old 80-20 rule. Yes, we're
Mm-hmm.
getting fewer leads, but let's spend 80% of our time really nurturing those 20%, or now it's 50% less, and we've got more time to nurture them. So let's learn a little bit about not just plowing through the leads and leaving a lot on the table because you just don't have, again, that fire hose. This is a
Mm-hmm.
time to pause and rethink. So, the questions, I put down some questions before we had this that I've been hearing, the signals are going to now be different from the different conversion points, right? We had
Yeah.
begun to understand that if they clicked this, downloaded that, and did these other 2 actions, that they were more likely to want a tour. we've got to relook at all of that, because they're going to be wanting, again, that third year. What else are they going to be really looking at? And it's going to be safety, sure, and it's going to be COVID, sure, but there's going to be even deeper lying instincts. To your point, for the parent who's been home for the last 3 months with the adult child, they're going back to work, they've got 2 kids, and here's what they've noticed about mom. They used to visit her, 10 times a year, 5 times a year, and she seemed okay, but never seemed to be eating quite right. Maybe wasn't taking her medication exactly. She's not in cognitive decline. She's just older. And, she doesn't remember her medication all the time. And I don't want her living alone anymore. I see from her, can't have her living with me too much. I love her,
right?
So the guilt factor, it's really going to be a different world in learning who those people are and what they really need. What's going to be again, to your point, you talked before, what's going to be the new content and the new cadence of how people are going to be selling and managing those leads. But I go back to 80-20. We've really gone out to a number of speakers who kind of specialize in really thinking about this digital world and not accepting the fire hose anymore. In the sales management area, people talked a lot about, we're going to have to, not that people haven't done before, but really double down on leading with purpose. Navigating the crisis, and now that we've begun navigating that crisis, planning for the recovery, what will be the new normal? That's not going to be clear to anybody for a while. I go back to, there are no overnight solutions. It's just being able to look at it differently. We have, of course, a post-acute track. That industry has been hit unbelievably hard and is still under major regulation, and will probably be so for perhaps as far as the eye can see, which may create other opportunities, believe it or not, in the referral market. It's a question of seeing the glass half full or the glass half empty, and what that looks like. We're bringing in a great speaker from ACA who's going to talk about those changes and what they're seeing and what recovery will look like to them. And marketing management, I go back to, that people have to accelerate the digital. It's going to happen more on mobile. People are going to really have to meet people where they're at, not just content, but place and space. Are there now or never moments for people, and what are they? And just, again, I go back to their bad news is their leads are 50% down. The good news is it's the pause. Now they have enough information over 5-6 years to really understand what they're working with. Great. Take this opportunity and now move all of that information forward in a way that really will impact the organizations as recovery happens. And it will happen. It may not happen in 6 months, but 2021 will be a pivotal moving year, and you got to stay agile. Strategically developing, I think every organization will have to strategically develop their own recovery signals. What's that going to look like for them? And I go back to sales and marketing, both have to be in on that. And as sales is hearing from the ground what people really want, what they're really fearful of, what they're really guilty about, they better be telling their marketing departments. The age of just throwing out HubSpot letters, HubSpot's great. It's not going to cut it anymore. They're going to have to slice and dice and personalize even more. I know it's a lot more work, but at the end of the day, fewer leads will give them the opportunity to test some of that, I think. So
that's what we're hearing from our clients, is that people have more time to connect. They're adopting new technologies. We have folks who've never done Facebook Live. Now every day they have an update from the community, because families want to see what's going on, and it gives them great comfort and great confidence in the operator. We're seeing people adopt some of the video technologies for virtual tours. So we really have to reimagine the entire prospect journey and recreate all of those in-person activities. And I think especially, even as as the restrictions lift and as we're talking to our clients about what their version of new normal is, for a large part, and some are getting really creative. We have a client that's doing porch visits, right? They can't give a tour, they can't come in the building, but they have these porch visits with lemonade, and they have they're still getting safely to connect with prospects. And, I love to see kind of the innovation, people who are doing, virtual events and streaming events to replace the on-site events. Um, but I am seeing that I hope that when we come out of this, that we're going to have a whole new set of sales and marketing tools and belief systems and skill set, that even when we can add back in, the earlier stage open houses and tours and luncheons and home visits that right now we can't do, that will be so much more effective and probably so much more comfortable, even with technology. So what are you seeing, or what do you imagine is going to be some of the innovation and some of the experimentation that we're going to be adopting as an industry?
I think that's a really, again, what you talked about is exactly spot on what I've been hearing as well. I mean, from cocktail parties within the community itself, inviting outside people who are considering the community to a cocktail party. And then the residents are actually best salespeople, right, within the cocktail party, talking about why they like where they are, they feel safe where they are. So I like you, I've heard all kinds of ingenious things. I certainly think coming out of this, everybody, consumers, and as well as the organizations that we serve, as well as our professional referral partners, are 100% more comfortable with virtual. And that's a great thing, because it perhaps makes it more competitive, because I can visit 7 communities as an adult daughter personally with you, and get a tour and have a one-on-one, seeing you right in the eye, like I'm looking at you, Debbie, as I always enjoy being with you. So I think that will change. That's a game changer moving forward, and no one thought it would be. If you'd asked me a year ago, I'd said, yeah, virtual tours are great. Everyone liked them, they had them, but nobody, it was difficult for now, you get an invite for a Zoom meeting and you're like, oh, I'll pull up my hair and so what, it's gray and let's go, people are really, really used to that. So it doesn't sound like a big, it's not high technology, but it's going to shift the way people think. I will give you an anecdotal conversation that I had with an operator recently, who was saying it's so hard for our salespeople, in the sense to not just now, but in the past, they are terrific in person. They have been trained to be great in-person salespeople. Right. They are empathetic. They can close anybody when they see them personally. But what's happened is we've become impersonal in the marketing. Not any, bad to the marketing efforts. It's just that, again, the HubSpots, the automated, so they don't really get to have their voice until somebody finally raises their hand and says, yes, I want a tour. Well, now that anecdotal piece of, complaint or, worry that their best salespeople really weren't being heard, that's not, now you've got an opportunity to get your salespeople in front of people. And people do trust people. People buy from people. I mean, sure, they're going to look at everything they're concerned about, but at the end of the day, I want to buy from you because I trust you. I like you. I'm going to trust my mom with you. And you can have more people. You can have 10 people from around the country, the nieces, the nephews, the brothers on one call. Like, I really think that's a huge game changer. And I go back to content. I think if people take the pause and really think through who their new customer, it's not a new customer, but they will be a new customer in a sense, really want now, and their stakeholders, the kids, the nieces, the nephews, because everybody couldn't see mom during this time, right? Is going to be paramount. I go back to, what has come before will not be going on in the future. And so, technology will march on. AI is going to be solving some of these issues so that the data management, pouring of the fire hose, when those levers start working again, and they will solve some of those issues. So AI technology, voice technology is going to be huge. It is now. People are using it. I forget the percentage, but I believe that 70% of inquiries now are all voice inquiries, whether you have Alexa or you're using your phone.
Hmm.
There's the advertising on that is the wild, wild west right now. No one really
Yeah.
knows what to do or what to do with it. So it is an opportunity again to hear a personal voice answering a
Yeah.
question, not just Alexa, but once you go into an ad environment, you'll have a different way to be able to communicate and not just a flat digital ad. So I think there's a lot on the horizon that will, because of what we've seen change during this, will accelerate what technology is coming down the line. But I go back to virtual. That's really, being able to
Yeah.
communicate virtually is one of the biggest ones. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, what's interesting is we've found really combining the efficiency of delivery of a HubSpot or a marketing automation platform, but embedding the personal video has doubled our open and click rate. So one of the things we've done is go through all of those workflows, because you have to say, is this relevant? Is it still important? Is it what people want to hear? But people are missing that interaction, and the sales team is really missing those kind of interpersonal,
Yes.
because that is where they shine. And so whether it's Heart Legacy or One Day or something that you can record that's branded, we're actually able to embed that into the workflows.
Right.
So that's really the perfect combination, because the automation is great because it's your virtual sales assistant that's on 24/7, uh,
Yes.
which is awesome. And half of our inquiries come in after 5 nights, weekends, and holidays. So it fills that gap, but it also allows this wonderful personal greeting. And then you can start embedding the video tours and the personal messaging, and really thinking through, what would the salesperson say at this point in the sales process?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
What would the salesperson say, right, at this point in the
Yeah.
sales process? And thank you for reminding me that, the embedded feature, not only in HubSpot, but a number of the other marketing automation programs, I think has made a huge difference at
Yeah.
this point. Again, our
Right.
salespeople, when I say our in senior care, are some of the most empathetic, wonderful, in-person salespeople. They are not meant to be sitting on the other end of the phone on GoDaddy. This is
Right.
not they were trained up and continue to get trained in that empathetic listening and understanding, and to be able to see
Yeah.
that on a video and get delivered regularly based on whatever your lead scoring or any of that is. It's an incredible. I think that will also make a huge difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think it's certainly a difficult time, and we're learning as we're going. But I do think at the end, we're going to come out with, so many other channels and comfort levels with how to really engage prospects in ways that are, even more meaningful, because we can't just fall back on, why don't you come to the open house? Why don't you come have lunch? Like all of those things that became kind of rote and repetitive. And let's face it, everybody was doing the same thing. Now it's really a chance for, I think, providers to really show their creativity, and figure out how to create interaction without physical interaction. And that's really the key. So one of the things we've been doing is taking like the PDFs, like we always had download a brochure, and you download the brochure and it's a PDF and it's fine, it has pretty pictures in it. But now we're embedding video, and we're embedding slideshows and testimonials and greetings from the salesperson and interactive room planners. And we're creating tools that allow people to experience the community before they're ready, willing, and able to come into physically. Like we've got to reimagine every one of those touch points and create it in a way
yes.
that's interactive and virtual.
Absolutely. And again, how much going to that 80% of your time on 20%? It's not just 80% of the salespeople time. Think of it, I go back to sales and marketing. If you spend 80% of your time really, first it's the embedded video to say hello, then it's the embedded video to say, hey, why don't you take a look at our floor plans? And because they've clicked on two things, like really taking this time to understand how to connect with people digitally, because at the end of the day, that's what they wanted before COVID happened. Everyone
Yeah.
was too busy anyway. to
Yeah.
physically take mom to any place other than the one you really want or the two, but you want to look at 7. You really do. And if you can't do that
Yeah.
digitally today, even before COVID, places were being left on the table because they didn't have either the technology or the need. We're getting enough leads. Yeah, it's not exactly what we want, but we've got enough. All that, as I said, it's over. People are going to have to act with urgency. It's not just about getting revenue. The first movers will win here. And
Yeah.
the first movers won't have all the answers, but they'll be willing to experiment. And that is, again, we've got a lot of drivers, a lot more tools now in the toolbox that we know work. We know it
Yeah.
works. The virtual gives us a world of opportunity. I want to also just say this on the skilled nursing side. Remember, they have not been able to see their referral sources in years because of the
Yeah.
regulations that stopped many of the professional referral salespeople from going in with donuts.
Right.
Okay? We needed virtual donuts. And this
Yeah.
is an opportunity from a content perspective. And, the senior care side has been particularly, I won't say slow to move for any reason, except it was hard to figure out how you would do that. But now they can go in with really robust content and talk to
Hmm.
have a luncheon for 7 case managers. I heard a great story the other day. They sent case managers, now that things have calmed down, all the beds aren't COVID beds, they have to bring other people in. They sent a Grubhub certificate,
Yeah.
for $10, and said, come to the lunch and we're going to talk to you about how how assisted living can help,
Right.
once somebody's discharged. I was like, what a great idea. So maybe they didn't
Right.
get every case manager, but they got a number of them. And that part of our business is also so critical and has been so hard hit by the press. So,
Yeah.
I think also the last thing I'll say, I know we're going to be running short. It is incumbent upon every organization, senior housing, senior care, as well as the trade associations. We've got a lot of work to do to counter the message that has been told this last year. And everybody has got to get on board with that. I know we do. I see it all on LinkedIn, but it's got to get a lot broader than that. You're talking about your heroes every day, but your
Yeah.
customer has to know about them too.
Yeah.
So,
That's a great point. Well, Bailey, it has been a pleasure. I so appreciate your passion and your love of the industry, and thank you for bringing Smash to us. You have created something really special. And if people want to learn more or get in touch with you or register for the conference, how would they do that?
they would. First, we would hope you'd go look at our program. We think it's terrific this year. Sorry if we pat ourselves on the back, but it's actually our advisory board that does most of the heavy lifting on that. You would go to www.seniorcaremarketingsummit.com and you'll be able to see the program there. As I said, we have over 30 sessions listed. By the time we are finished, we'll probably have close to 40 sessions available, and a lot of it will be focused on how to begin to manage the recovery. So, and I'm always available, 917-572-1118. I love getting phone calls. I love talking to people in the industry. So call anytime, and it's bailey.beeken@seniorcaresummits.com with an S. So lots of ways to be in touch.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for joining us and sharing your senior living marketing perspectives with us. And hopefully we will see you at Smash in the fall.
Yes, October 19th to the 21st. We will see you then. Thank you again, Debbie, very much. It's been an honor.
Thanks so much. Bye, Bailey.
Bye-bye.